I want to help you win your fantasy league by giving you 16 players you need to consider drafting this year for your fantasy football team. I compiled the numbers. We looked at the data. Now we're going to use the values from ADP to see whether they're worth drafting or not. Looking at those values to help you win your league. You need to hit that subscribe button right now because that's going to be very crucial for you to winning your league because we're pumping out content left and right. Also Dynasty Fantasy Football, also Devy, all kinds of nuggets here to help you become a better fantasy player. So let's move on. Let's look at these 16 players. We used Underdog Fantasy. So in basic redraft leagues, some of these players are going to be a little cheaper. They may say round 9 when they're round 12. But the first player we're looking at here, Pat FREIERMUTH, round 9 ADP on Underdog Fantasy at best ball sites. Also, the ADP is pretty sharp there, and they've been drafting nonstop all year long. So, pretty consistent data to use right now, considering redraft has not yet started to pop off on drafts. We're looking at the data here with his in-splits with Kenny Pickett, 12 games, 9.78 points per game. And you see the numbers here, almost 50 yards per game. You're looking at a guy who's a top 10, top 12 tight end in fantasy, almost week in and week out. The position's very volatile, so you want to pay down at the position if you're not paying up. And if you're paying down and you're looking at a guy to look at, Pat FREIERMUTH might be a guy to look at here. Due to the volume you're seeing here in the passing game, we're getting 6 targets a game with Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's going to have another year in the system here, another year to materialize and mature, and then Pat FREIERMUTH's going to be like in his 3rd year, ready to rock and roll, more development. We also got Washington in the system too. I look for him to gradually develop into the offensive system, but you really have to look in the FREIERMUTH right now because he's got some consistency in the offense. Washington's going to come along. Tight ends take some time to develop, and then Pat FREIERMUTH's already been on that timeline and really should take another step forward. And you're catching him at a cheap price tag. The next player we're going to talk about is Tyler Boyd, round 9 ADP in best ball right now in Underdog. You're going to catch him a little bit cheaper. You're going to catch him in double-digit rounds, but he's pure handcuff for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. He is the pure handcuff. I spelled Chase wrong, but that's okay. But look at the numbers here from the last 2 years. Look at the spike weeks when they've been out on injury. Also, he is also giving you spike weeks of production even when he's on the field because this offense can hum. It's explosive. They can really allow you to get fantasy production from their wide receiver 3 and Tyler Boyd, and that's something you want to be interested in because that top tier production just thrown into your flex, working the matchups, that's something that could really help you out. He averaged 11.2 PPR points per game last year, but the spike weeks are what you're looking at. You're really playing the matchups with this guy, or if one of those wide receivers come out, you're going to want him. Moving on to the next guy, Deontay Johnson. Round 5 ADP right now on Underdog. You're going to catch him a little bit cheaper, maybe like round 7 in your drafts. 137 targets last year with a 27% target share and 32% share of the air yards. Scored 0 touchdowns last year, had 10.6 points per game. It is very hard to not be productive on those totals. And now you're looking at around 7-ish price tag in ADP, round 6-ish, and you're getting a good target share, good share of the air yards because you're getting so many targets. You're one of the top wide receivers in targets. Maybe we get better quarterback play, but with the pure volume here and you're getting a good price tag, it's just a value now. And he'll probably have spike games. He might even hit a little bit more, especially that touchdown variance. That should go above 0. Maybe 1, maybe 2. But guarantee you should get more than 0 this year because that's not hard to do. Going on to our next guy, Jahan Dotson, round 7 ADP on Underdog. Probably going to catch him a tad cheaper too in regular drafts. But the thing is, he turned it on when he was healthy. They were using him when he was healthy. He had games where he outproduced Terry McLaurin when he was healthy, and that was in a good portion of his games. And really finished the year strong when he was in the fold, when he was getting snaps. Second year wide receiver. Second year is when players can blossom. Second year and third year. So that's something you want to look into. Lower volume passing game. Quarterback play suspect, but you're also catching him in middle round ADP, so the value's there, and he's in a spot where you want to shoot for upside in drafts. Moving on to Nico Collins, round 11 ADP. We talked about him a lot this offseason, so let's talk about him a little bit more. 50% of his targets were uncatchable, so most targets coming his way wasn't able to bring him in. 20% target share, 30% share of the air yards. CJ Stroud's there to toss the deep balls. Should get better targets, should see air yards galore, and that should allow him to be fantasy relevant this year, at least as a volatile asset, because CJ Stroud's got to develop himself. But things are looking better for Nico Collins going into this season. To our next player, Rachaad White, round 7 ADP. Leonard Fournette's gone, but check down Tom Brady's gone as well. But we've seen Rachaad White be productive. We've seen it. We saw it last year. We had some double-digit fantasy performances, 2 RB1 weeks, multiple RB2 performances, and multiple double-digit games. This offense is going to be a lot different. I imagine it's going to be a lot slower paced. I imagine the quarterback play is going to be a huge cog here. You could bring in another running back. And also, there could be competition in the offense with Sean Tucker if he plays to his potential like we saw during his collegiate career at Syracuse. That's something to think about. But right now, he's looking like he's going to be getting a lot of touches, and he's going to be at a cheap price tag. Everything is according to price. Moving on to our next player, Drake London, round 4 ADP. Probably going to catch him a little bit cheaper, round 5, 6 range, maybe around 5-ish. Some people are going to get a little cute, though. 29% target share and 29% share of the air yards last year. The passing volume was down last year, so if that ramps up and he continues with this ownership rate, you're going to see a guy here that explodes. And if this team throws the ball a lot more, he's going to explode. If they throw a little bit more, he's going to be productive. And the thing about this, with Desmond Ridder, his value, his production ramped up as well with 14.5 PPR fantasy points per game and 83 receiving yards per game as well. Also seeing about 8 targets a game, almost 9. So that's something you want to look at as well. Ridder chucking it downfield to Drake London, that's something we're probably going to see. And if I was Ridder, I'd be doing the same thing. Moving down to KADARIUS TONEY, round 7 ADP. A little bit cheaper in drafts. A little bit cheaper in some of the drafts I've been. Will it be the wide receiver 1 in Kansas City? This is also a note for Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, whatever Kansas City wide receiver 2. So add those in here in this thought process, but you want the wide receiver 1 for Kansas City. You want the main cog in the offense. At the back end of the season, he started to produce a little bit. There are rumors about him playing well, but you catch that in the offseason. But we want to talk about that because he's going in drafts. You're going to catch him for a discount, and you're going to want to pull the trigger eventually. And then with him being in the Chiefs offense for the price, you're pushing at almost double-digit ADP anyways. You want to shoot for upside. KADARIUS TONEY definitely gives you that, but also the other Chiefs wide receivers mentioned will do that too. Next, we're going to be talking about Cam Akers. Round 6 ADP. Can he continue the production? Because he finished the season strong last year. After coming back from a horrific injury, they gave him the keys to the car. They let him roll. He does not have any competition of consequence. Got some jabronis behind him. You do have Evans there. He is a highly athletic running back prospect, but late round pick. Cam Akers should get every opportunity to succeed here, to get volume at least, and that's something you want to be interested here in the middle rounds. Going on to our next guy, Jerry Jeudy. We've talked about him before. Underdog ADP is very high here. I think in real drafts you're going to catch him a little cheaper. 18.3 PPR points per game in his last 8 games, but if you exclude week 18 and his 7 games prior to that, 17.4 points per game. So he was finishing the year strong. The team invested in the offensive line. Russell Wilson has another offseason to work with the team. Things could develop. Jerry Jeudy being healthy. Let's see what happens here. But round 5, round 6, round 7, price tag, wherever he's going to end up going in ADP once drafts start to kick off, especially in home leagues. Home leagues will be a little cheaper, especially when people start thinking about the Broncos offense. Something you want to think about. But round 4 ADP on Underdog, people trying to get those stacks in. Also, a wide receiver that's on the come up, at least in perspective, dynasty, redraft value. Going on, Tony Pollard, round 4 ADP on underdog right now. The thing about this is he's an undervalued running back prospect due to coming back from the injury out of split with Ezekiel Elliott. So when Ezekiel Elliott's not in, which has just been 2 games, because Ezekiel Elliott has been pretty healthy throughout his career, 27.75 PPR fantasy points per game, 18 rushing attempts per game in those 2 games, and 123 rushing yards per game in those 2 games. They're going to use him. They're going to rock and roll with him. And if you're worried about the health, which is understandable, one thing you want to think about is we went through the surgery, we went through all this injury volatility that we've been looking at. They didn't add anybody of consequence. They didn't add anybody in the draft. They added Deuce Vaughn. We know he's not going to steal his role. They added a couple other jabroni running backs, Ronald Jones for one of them. Nobody of consequence really to steal his thunder. They re-signed / re-upped some of the contracts of some of the jabroni backs that were on the depth chart. But it looks like Tony Pollard is coming into training camp as the guy, which is very exciting. One thing to note, though, Ezekiel Elliott, the longer he's hanging out there in free agency, the cheaper he'll get. Maybe they bring him back. A lot of people speculating on that. So think about that as you're drafting right now. Going on, we're looking at Rondale Moore, round 11 ADP. Hopkins is gone, and now we got Moore here sliding in as the wide receiver 2. Look for this to be a lower volume passing game, a slower offense. However, Moore can rack up the targets when healthy. When healthy, he can be productive. Here's a snapshot of the games when he was healthy last year. We had a wide receiver 1 week, 3 wide receiver 2 weeks, and then the injuries. That's the story of his career all the way back to Purdue. But this guy's a super athlete. He has speed to burn. He gets those short targets, and they do come in volume. So when he's on the field, he does hold his value. You do not have Hopkins there to soak up the target share. So targets are probably going to be flowing a little bit more. This team could be in some matchups where they got to push the pace anyways and try to put up points in garbage time. Maybe Rondale Moore could be a guy to look at here in the later rounds. Going on to our next guy, AMON-RA, St. Brown, round 2 ADP. Probably going to be around there in real drafts. Maybe a shade cheaper, but I look for him to be expensive nonetheless. 28% target share, 25% share of the air yards. Dude owns the passing game there. Has been productive. I do not see any change. As long as he's healthy, he should be productive. Compared to the other productive wide receivers who consistently get target share, he is a cheap one to get. Going on here, we got another running back who might be on the cheap considering the workload they're projected to receive is Rhamondre Stevenson, round 3 ADP. I think that might be sticky in regular drafts. 18% target share last year. 3rd among all running backs in targets. 83 of them. Damian Harris is gone, so we're going to see more workload. And look how productive he was last year. 8 RB1 weeks, multiple RB2 games. Dude was productive, and he's going to get more workload now. Probably even more workload in the passing game. And he's going for a good price considering the workload that he's getting. And we're going to see that materialize in fantasy production. And as long as he's healthy, he should be getting that workload. Next is Christian Watson, round 4 ADP. Look for him to be considerably cheaper in regular drafts. But something you want to note, sharp money is putting money on Christian Watson, whether it's right or wrong. Take that for what you want. The thing is, when he was healthy, he was productive. One of the most productive wide receivers in the game. One thing you want to look at, the top chart here, he can get air yards in bunches. So if this team's airing it out, or if Love wants to go deep a lot, if he's a YOLO ball guy, and we'll know once we get a few games into the season, this could be huge for Christian Watson. This could be some big opportunity, especially in those plus matchups. And again, he's a wide receiver that you're going to catch, I don't know, maybe around 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there in regular drafts that you're going to be able to shoot for the moon on, and he is going to give you upside that you're not going to get with a lot of wide receivers. The downside is great because this could be a slower volume team. They may slow it down considering they can bank on the run game a little bit. They got Love there. They don't want to put too much on him. That's a story you can play out. So you might just see volatility from him. That's probably what the project. But again, when you see the volatility, the ups are going to be up and the down might be down. So that's one thing to note. And next, we got to talk about BREECE Hall. Round 3 ADP here. He's an injury gamble. But don't forget about the production here. 2 RB1 weeks, productive, all double-digit games, catching the ball in the backfield, explosive. Coming back from that knee injury. We also have Aaron Rodgers here. We've had rumors that they were into Dalvin Cook. Now we're just waiting things out. We do have clips from minicamp. We'll have more clips from training camp of how he's looking. Things are looking okay. Things are looking pretty good for a guy coming back from a knee injury. So I would not put too much stock into that. I would take the gamble and hope for the best. But if I'm in a huge money league, that's my main league, then I would understand diversifying your portfolio. That would make sense as well. But again, gamble for upside here. That is what that is. Because you also have that injury here that he's coming back from. Maybe there's a slow start. Maybe there's not. Also, this is with him sharing some of the backfield as well. So he can be productive in short bursts, which is something you want to be into. But those are 16 players to consider drafting in your leagues this year. Let me know who you got your eye on, who you're chasing in your drafts. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Catch you on the next video.